to average 55.8 and still be discarded. To be the ODI Domestics Player of the Year 2 years in a row and still be ignored. To have scored 203 runs and still be dropped. Truly, Brad Hodge's career reads like a Shakespearean tragedy. But the problem is, the actual truth is somehow even more weird, much more absurd. The twists, the turns that happen, the amount of things that go wrong, his timing and reasoning of it all is so unbelievable that it will actually make you ask the question, this cannot be true, right? You made it up, right? But it's true. The true story of the unluckiest player to have ever graced international cricket. And we begin from 21st September 2004, the semi-finals of the Champions Trophy, where Ponting would take a fall and break his thumb, setting off a rat's race. A race where hundreds of players were to begin a desperate struggle to fill his empty seat. Because frankly, chances like this had been rarer than gold in the Australia of 2000s. The past decade had seen the Australian team evolve from a transition group of youngsters to a full-fledged superpower, where each and every member of the team were a guaranteed future Hall of Fame. They were the kings of cricket, untouched by anyone. Sadly, that included their own countrymen. Between 1991 to 2004, the Australian team would see a total of 13 batsmen. With minimal injuries and maximum results, they had solidified their position. Hence, it wasn't much of a surprise that any chance, no matter how small, would be fought for tooth and nail by all the domestic batsmen. However, as the race reached its final stages and the chaos died down a bit, there were only two names remaining. First, Michael Clarke, the young boy wonder who had mesmerized the domestic scene in the past few years. And then you had the ever-present grizzly veteran Brad Hodge. The funny thing was, back then, when Hodge was starting out, he was considered even a bigger genius than Clarke was now. It was just that his brilliance back then fell short of the consistency that was required, causing him to be forgotten in time. It would take years and years of desperate struggle, of endless training and record-breaking performances for him to finally prove his worth again. But the one thing that he had still not got, the one aim that he had worked endlessly towards, was the call-up to the main team. And the years and years of waiting had made him so desperate that when he saw Ponting break his thumb while vacationing in South Africa, he would drop everything that he was doing and frantically start calling Cricket Australia just in case they can't reach him, not knowing that his name had become the greatest point of contention in the selection board. In a meeting that would go on for hours, the room was divided equally between the need for experience and the need to nurture the next generation. And though the wind seemed to be shifting towards Clarke, they would decide to put it forward to Ponting, the captain. Not for his decision, mind you, just to gauge his reaction. And Ponting was clear. Give the young bloke a go. Still, as maybe even Hodge saw it, it was not all over. The team was going to tour India next, the graveyard of Australians where even experienced batsmen suffer. So surely, the youngster would fail. And who knows, maybe after losing a few matches, maybe he tried out. Clarke scores 151 runs in his debut match. Follows that up by taking 6 wickets in an inning in the 4th match, not only winning the matches, but winning Australia its first ever series win on Indian soil. He was not going anywhere. The door had been slammed firmly on Hodge's face, and it would take another 14 months for it to be opened again, when the humiliation of losing the 2005 Ashes would see the entire middle order culled down. Then finally, Hodge would get his chance. As he was to put it, I know how hard it is to get in that side. It has been extremely hard work and dedication. And if I get my chance, I certainly am not going to give it up early. And as he took the field, you could see that determination bleed through. The first practice match, 177 runs at a strike rate of 98. Then a half century at the official debut, all of it building up towards the actual coup de grace. A magnificent 203 against South Africa. It was the best start anyone could have hoped for, a fitting reward for years of hard work. But even here, you could see how things were gonna pan out. As the Collates came in, so did a lot of grumbling about how Ricky Ponting, in allowing Hodge to complete his double century, had caused the match to be drawn. And this would be the start of an intriguing pattern we are gonna see henceforth. Somehow, whenever Hodge does really well, the team loses the match, and when he does badly, they seem to somehow win. That's for later though. In the moment though, none of that actually mattered to Hodge. He had finally arrived. And after this statement, this glorious healing, surely nobody could doubt him anymore, right? Nobody could take this away from him now, right? Hodge has dropped in the next test tour. Something that even his replacement, the 34-year-old Damien Martin, could not believe. Hodge would go on to say later, I was devastated to score 203 and still we dropped. It's madness, sheer madness. But at the time though, he kept his mouth shut, simply saying, I will be back. Because frankly, he didn't have to say anything because the entire Australian fandom was already up in arms for him. For something so absurd to be done, with the only explanation given being it was a judgment call, people were rightly furious. Because this wasn't a one-off thing. Selectors, by rule, never had to explain their judgment, never had to meet the press, never even had to adhere to a specific criteria. They could pick whomever they wanted, whenever they wanted. Hence, the selections many times reeked of bias, leading many to speculate that Cricket Australia was an old boys club, where you needed contacts and friendly relations more than any performance. And even on the off chance the selectors did choose to respond, most of the time it wouldn't make sense. Like in this case, where they would finally go on to say that Hodge's dip in domestic performance for the past few months was the reason for his exclusion. Which may have worked if Damien Martin wasn't having even a worse season than Hodge was having. So in time, all that seething outrage would quickly morph into a demand. Restore Hodge to the team. And in case Martin doesn't perform well, you can do it right in the middle of... I think you can guess what's gonna happen next, right? Yep. Martin scores the match-winning century in his third match, then follows it up by scoring back-to-back man of the matches and an epic inning in the finals to win Australia the Champions Trophy. And seemingly overnight, all that anger, all that outrage disappears. Who can fight the selectors when they keep on getting it right? So once again, Hodge would have to go back to the drawing board, once again waiting for his chance. And this was to become a pattern. Hodge scores Australia's first domestic T20 century, scores 400 runs in 3 matches at an average of 80. But when Shane Watson is injured right before the Ashes, it is the 36 averaging Clarke who is promoted over him and then goes on to score back-to-back centuries. Then Damien Martin retires midway through the Ashes and they prefer to go with an underperforming all-rounder who hits 153 in his second match. All of these rejections and disappointment slowly and gradually seem to be taking their toll on Hodge. Because you could just see from his interviews and mannerism, he was beginning to lose patience. Scoring 203 in test matches used to be the way to keep your spot, but maybe I missed the memo. Maybe I should have chucked in some dodgy medium pace too. That seemed to help others. And this, soon enough, became an issue. The problem was, it was a well-known fact in the cricketing circles. Publicly questioning selectors was highly frowned upon. The tightly knit hierarchical Australian system favoured team men who didn't rock the boat. In fact, that had been the only reason why Brad Hodge had gone against his nature and kept his mouth shut. But now that control was slipping, and suddenly Australian media was inundated with reports that the main reason Hodge was being kept out was his attitude problems. Now there is some truth to it, because the best way to describe Hodge would be a genius but aloof, brilliant but blunt, a fierce competitor but completely unfiltered. As even his friend Hussey would go on to say, there is no one more honest than Hodge. He will tell you exactly what he thinks, whether you like it or not. And frankly, Hodge himself was well aware of his personality. I wasn't everyone's cup of tea. I'm okay with that. I wanted to win and I didn't always sugarcoat things. And to all of this, I have a simple question. The world champion team with world famous superstars, were they really that fragile? Fragile enough that they couldn't handle one blunt person, that he could somehow mess up their years of chemistry. And it wasn't even as if he had come to blow with his teammates or he had entered into shouting matches with them, all of which the players currently in the team were going to do in the future and still remain in the team. Otherwise though, for the time being, Hodge's statements bringing attention to his situation, along with his domestic performance, would earn him a chance in the ODI team, which would be converted into a 99 not-out innings by Hodge, followed by becoming the team's highest scorer in the Commonwealth Finals, which they went on to lose. The next series, he misses a half century by 1 run and they lose the match. He plays a fabulous knock of 97 not out, and not only do they lose the match, but they lose the entire series in a whitewash, Australia's first in a decade. Then came the World Cup. where Hodge scores a sublime century in the group stage, and as a reward, he is dropped. And even when he has to be taken back into the squad because Shane Watson is injured, he is demoted to 5th or 6th place, meaning he never actually gets to bat, ultimately becoming the world champion with only 2 innings to his name. But what that position change would achieve was success in becoming a poison chalice, because the next tour was to be in India, where playing at number 6 meant facing the worst of spin, and when a player specializes in facing pace at the top, all you get is he's dropped. And his replacement Phil Jacques, first match 100, second match 150. 6 months later, another test, 67 and 27 under pressure, dropped Clarke's century. At some point, this has to stop being a coincidence. How can the same thing happen to the same person so many times? And I'm not even covering all of them. This has to be a cosmic joke. Like somehow God decided one day that he will keep on pranking Hodge again and again and again. At least he wouldn't have to suffer through this particular indignation anymore, because that test match was to be his very last. 20 years of struggle, ultimately amounting to 6 spread out tests. And that was that. From that point onwards, whenever his name would be brought up by the press, they would only get he's not in our long-term plans, meaning now he is too old. Year after year, he would top domestic charts, and year after year, he would be ignored. Then finally, in 2009, when in spite of averaging 52.8 in Ford Rangers Cup and being the leading scorer in Big Bash League, he would be passed over for a 25 averaging 68 in 14 matches. Short march. Hodge would have had enough. He simply decided to retire from first-class cricket. And now, not having any hopes for the future, he truly let loose. There is a bias in Australian cricket, in the dressing room as well. If the criteria is to score runs, I have done that heavily. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be working for me. Maybe I'll play for Australia in lawn balls in the future. Maybe tennis. I'm not sure yet. At one point, even going as far as to say that some people get 50 chances. Some of us don't even get a decent run. Now theoretically, his name still should have been in contention for limited overs cricket, but as time passed and Hodge's anger kept on increasing, making his barbs even sharper, it in essence cut off any chance of actually getting the call. Hence, being the player of the tournament in the ODI Domestic Cup for 2 years straight didn't matter. Being one of the most sought after Australian around the world T20 scene didn't matter. The only chance he would actually get, that too after severe protest by the fans, would be at age 39. That too in the 2014 T20 World Cup, only because the rest of the team was either injured or out of form, not even able to make it out of the group stage. And as if a final act of indignation, as if to make it absolutely clear where the management stood with him, each and every effort he would make to become the Australian team's manager, coach, or even an assistant somewhere, he would be met with a rejection. In spite of amassing 33,000 runs across all formats, in spite of averaging 62 and 69 in his final 2 first-class seasons, in spite of averaging 58.4 in tests, a feat achieved by just 14 people in Australian history, according to the management, Hodge had nothing to offer to Australian cricket. Thankfully, it's not all doom and gloom. That very same attitude that had angered the selectors so had also made Hodge into a cult hero. The anti-establishment man who was not afraid to speak up the truth. Hence, in time, he became the face of the numerous reforms that were made to Australian selection process. From taking into account Big Bash League's form, to selectors having to compulsorily meet the press, from performance data becoming a selection criteria, to even T20 leagues mattering for T20 selection. Nearly each and every reform that happened in the decade after Hodge retiring could be in some or the other way tracked back to what had happened to Hodge. And though he would be asked time and again about what he feels about these changes, about being one of the most important voices in revolutionizing Australian cricket, you could practically taste the dejection, the disappointment that he feels even now, 15 years later, when he answers, better late than never, I guess. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Till the next time, thank you for watching.